What if I told you Stranger Things wasn't fiction? That buried beneath a decaying military base in Montauk, New York lies the true story of psychic kids, mind control experiments, and time travel portals, conducted by the US government. This is not a creepypasta. This is the Montauk Project. And it might be the most disturbing government conspiracy you've never heard of. At the far edge of Long Island sits Camp Hero, a Cold War-era Air Force station closed in 1981. On the surface, it looks abandoned, graffiti-stained walls, rusting fences, and a massive radar tower that still looms like a forgotten sentinel. But locals have long whispered about what happened beneath it. Some say it was just a radar base. Others say something else was happening. Something far darker. Because in the late 1970s and early 80s men started coming forward claiming that Camp Hero was the epicenter of a secret program, the Montauk Project. But before we dive into their claims, we need to understand the real history of this place, and how it connects to an even more mysterious event from 1943. Camp Hero wasn't always called Camp Hero. Originally constructed in 1942 as a coastal artillery base, it was designed to protect Long Island Sound from German submarine attacks during World War II. The base was a masterpiece of wartime deception, built to look like a quaint fishing village from the air to fool Nazi reconnaissance planes. Gun emplacements were hidden inside fake houses. Radar equipment was disguised as water towers. Even the massive concrete bunkers were camouflaged to blend with the landscape. But Camp Hero's most important feature wasn't visible from above. It was what lay beneath. The base was riddled with underground tunnels connecting ammunition storage facilities, command centers, and blast-proof concrete bunkers. These tunnels stretched for miles beneath the sandy soil of Montauk Point, creating a hidden city beneath the earth. In 1947, the base was temporarily closed, but it reopened in 1951 as Montauk Air Force Station, part of the NORAD defense network. A massive semi-automatic ground environment radar tower was constructed, the same tower that still dominates the skyline today. This wasn't just any radar system. It was designed to detect incoming Soviet bombers during the height of the Cold War, capable of tracking aircraft hundreds of miles away. The base operated continuously until 1981, when it was officially decommissioned. Or was it? Because according to two men who would later become the primary sources for the Montauk Project legend, the real purpose of Camp Hero had nothing to do with coastal defense or radar detection. It was something far more sinister. The first whistleblower was Preston Nichols, an electrical engineer who claimed to have recovered repressed memories of working on classified projects at Camp Hero. According to Nichols, Montauk was conducting experiments in psychological warfare, funded by leftover black-budget money from the infamous Project MK-Ultra. But these weren't just the LSD experiments we know about from the 1950s and 60s. These were far more advanced. Nichols said he helped build something called the Montauk Chair, a device that could amplify psychic abilities in specially selected individuals. The chair was connected to massive transmitters that could broadcast psychic energy across vast distances. But the real breakthrough came when they discovered that certain children, usually boys aged 10 to 13, possessed natural psychic abilities that could be enhanced through training and technological amplification. These weren't random children. According to Nichols, they were carefully selected through psychological testing conducted in schools across America. Children who showed signs of telepathic ability, precognition, or psychokinesis were identified and quietly recruited. Their families were told they were being selected for gifted programs or special government scholarships. In reality, they were being brought to Camp Hero for experimentation. The second major whistleblower was Al Bialik, whose claims were even more extraordinary. Bialik insisted that the Montauk Project was connected to something much older and more disturbing, the legendary Philadelphia experiment of 1943. According to Bialik, he was present during both experiments and had lived through one of the most classified events in American military history. The Philadelphia experiment allegedly took place on October 28, 1943, at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. The target was the USS Eldridge, a newly commissioned destroyer escort that had been fitted with experimental electromagnetic field generators. The official goal was to make the ship invisible to enemy radar, a crucial advantage in the submarine-infested waters of the Atlantic. But according to the legend, something went catastrophically wrong. When the generators were activated, the ship didn't just disappear from radar, it vanished completely. Witnesses reported seeing a greenish-blue glow surrounding the vessel before it faded from sight. The ship allegedly teleported from Philadelphia to Norfolk, Virginia, over 200 miles away, where it was spotted briefly before returning to its original location. The crew was found in a state of complete psychological breakdown. Some were reportedly embedded in the ship's hull, their bodies fused with the metal. Others had disappeared entirely. Those who survived were left with severe mental trauma and claimed to have experienced time displacement, living moments out of sequence, aging rapidly, or becoming unstuck in time. The Navy has consistently denied that any such experiment took place. Official records show that the USS Eldridge was never stationed in Philadelphia during the alleged time frame. However, the story persisted, fueled by a merchant mariner named Carl M. Allen, who claimed to have witnessed the event from a nearby ship. Al-Bialik's claims went even further. He insisted that he was one of the sailors who jumped overboard during the Philadelphia experiment, and that he had somehow traveled through time to 1983. According to Bialik, the time displacement wasn't accidental, it was the intended result of experiments that continued for decades after the war. This is where the Montauk Project allegedly comes in. Bialik claimed that researchers spent 40 years trying to understand and replicate what happened during the Philadelphia experiment. The work moved from Philadelphia to other locations, including Brookhaven National Laboratory on Long Island, before finally settling at Camp Hero in the 1970s. The Montauk experiments, according to both Nichols and Bialik, were focused on three main areas: mind control, time manipulation, and interdimensional travel. The researchers had allegedly perfected the ability to create and control electromagnetic fields that could bend spacetime itself. But they needed human subjects with psychic abilities to focus and direct these fields. This is where the children came in. According to the whistleblowers, boys with strong psychic abilities were brought to Camp Hero and subjected to intense training. They were taught to use their minds to manipulate electromagnetic fields, project their consciousness across vast distances, and even open portals to other dimensions. The training was reportedly brutal. Children were subjected to sensory deprivation, electroshock therapy, and pharmaceutical enhancement. Those who couldn't handle the stress were allegedly disposed of. Those who showed promise were developed into psychic weapons for the military. One child, according to Nichols, was different from all the others. Stronger. More dangerous. They called him the Montauk Boy. This child possessed abilities that surpassed anything the researchers had seen before. He could not only manipulate electromagnetic fields but create physical objects through pure thought. His psychic projections were so powerful they could manifest as solid matter. The project reached its climax in August 1983. According to Nichols, the Montauk Boy was ordered to create a specific psychic projection as part of a time travel experiment. But instead of following orders, he manifested something else entirely, a creature so terrifying and destructive that it broke free from the underground laboratories and began destroying equipment. The creature was described as a massive, hairy beast with enormous claws and teeth. It rampaged through the underground facilities, killing researchers and destroying decades of work. The project leaders had no choice but to shut down the entire operation immediately. The Montauk chair was destroyed, the underground facilities were sealed, and the surviving researchers were dispersed to other black projects. Interestingly, in 2008, a bizarre creature washed ashore near Montauk. The Montauk Monster, as it was dubbed by the media, was a hairless, decomposing animal with unusual features that defied easy identification. Officials quickly removed the carcass, and its origin was never definitively determined. Some believers in the Montauk Project claimed it was related to the creature allegedly created in 1983. The official story is that Camp Hero was simply decommissioned in 1981 and converted into a state park in 1984. The underground tunnels were filled with concrete for safety reasons, and the site was opened to the public for recreation. But conspiracy theorists point out several inconsistencies in this narrative. Why were the underground facilities completely sealed rather than simply secured? Why were all the buildings boarded up instead of being repurposed or demolished? And why do visitors to the park report strange electromagnetic anomalies, unexplained power surges, and electronic equipment malfunctions? Local residents have reported numerous strange phenomena over the years. Animals refuse to enter certain areas of the park. Compasses spin wildly near the old radar tower. Visitors experience sudden temperature drops, feelings of being watched, and episodes of missing time. Some have reported seeing children wandering the woods who disappear when approached. The connections to Stranger Things are undeniable. The Netflix series was originally titled Montauk and was specifically inspired by the conspiracy theories surrounding Camp Hero. The show's creators, the Duffer Brothers, were fascinated by the stories of psychic children being experimented on by government agencies. The character of Eleven, with her shaved head and supernatural abilities, bears a striking resemblance to the alleged Montauk boys. The series features many elements directly lifted from Montauk Project lore: a secret government facility conducting psychic experiments on children, a girl with telekinetic abilities who can open portals to other dimensions, and a shadowy government agency that will do anything to protect its secrets. Even the show's alternate dimension, the Upside Down, mirrors descriptions of the interdimensional spaces allegedly accessed through the Montauk experiments. But the influence goes beyond just Stranger Things. The Montauk Project has inspired countless books, documentaries, and investigations. Researchers have spent decades trying to verify the claims made by Nichols and Bialik. Some have found intriguing evidence, while others have debunked key elements of the story. The most damaging criticism comes from researchers who have examined the backgrounds of the primary witnesses. Preston Nichols has been accused of fabricating his credentials and his involvement in classified projects. Al Bielik's claims about his identity and age have been thoroughly debunked. He was born Alfred Bielik in 1927, not Edward Cameron in 1916 as he claimed. However, some elements of the story have proven more difficult to dismiss. Camp Hero did indeed have extensive underground facilities. The base was involved in classified radar research throughout the Cold War. Equipment from Brookhaven National Laboratory was moved to the site in the late 1960s. And the timing of the base's closure in 1981 coincides with the alleged end of the Montauk Project. More intriguingly, the broader context of government mind control experiments is well documented. Project MKUltra, which ran from 1953 to 1973, conducted thousands of experiments on unwitting subjects. The CIA tested LSD, sensory deprivation, electroshock therapy, and other techniques designed to control human behavior. children were indeed subjects in some of these experiments. The military's interest in psychic phenomena is also well established. The US government spent millions of dollars on Project Stargate, a program that ran from 1978 to 1995 and attempted to develop psychic spies who could gather intelligence through remote viewing. While the program was officially deemed unsuccessful, some of its techniques are still classified. Recent declassified documents have revealed that the Pentagon continues to investigate unexplained phenomena. The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which studied UFOs from 2007 to 2012, included research into consciousness manipulation and psychic abilities. The government's current unidentified aerial phenomenon investigations continue to encounter phenomena that seem to defy conventional physics. Could the Montauk Project have been a real precursor to these modern programs? The technology described by Nichols and Bialik, electromagnetic field manipulation, consciousness projection, and space-time distortion, sounds like science fiction. But cutting-edge physics research is exploring many of these same concepts. Quantum mechanics has demonstrated that consciousness does play a role in determining reality at the subatomic level. Researchers are investigating whether human consciousness can influence quantum systems at larger scales. The military is developing brain-computer interfaces that could theoretically allow direct mental control of electronic systems. Even more remarkably, recent breakthroughs in physics have shown that manipulating electromagnetic fields can indeed create effects that seem to bend space-time. The concept of metamaterials that can bend light and create invisibility cloaks is no longer science fiction, it's being developed in laboratories around the world. Time travel, while still theoretical, is mathematically possible according to Einstein's theories of relativity. Researchers have proposed several mechanisms by which time travel could be achieved, including manipulating electromagnetic fields to create closed time-like curves. The question isn't whether the specific claims about the Montauk Project are true, the evidence for that remains highly questionable. The question is whether the underlying concepts are scientifically feasible. And increasingly, the answer appears to be yes. Modern neuroscience is revealing that human consciousness is far more malleable than previously thought. Techniques like transcranial magnetic stimulation can temporarily alter brain function and create experiences that resemble psychic phenomena. Some researchers believe that certain individuals may indeed possess natural abilities that could be enhanced through training and technology. The military's interest in these capabilities hasn't diminished. DARPA continues to fund research into brain-computer interfaces, consciousness manipulation, and exotic propulsion systems. The Space Force is investigating technologies that could manipulate space-time itself. And the intelligence community continues to study phenomena that challenge our understanding of physics and consciousness. If projects like Montauk did exist, they would represent just the beginning of a much larger effort to understand and control the fundamental forces of reality. The technology described in the conspiracy theories, psychic amplification, time manipulation, and interdimensional travel, may not be fantasy. It may be the future of warfare and espionage. The real question isn't whether the Montauk Project happened exactly as described by its whistleblowers. The question is whether similar projects are happening right now, in facilities far more secure than Camp Hero, with technology far more advanced than anything imagined in the 1980s. The children who allegedly participated in the Montauk experiments would be adults now. If they exist, they would possess abilities that most people can't even imagine. They might be living normal lives, unaware of their true potential. Or they might be part of a new generation of psychic soldiers, trained from birth to serve as weapons in conflicts that the general public never sees. The underground facilities at Camp Hero were sealed with concrete in the 1980s. But similar facilities exist at military bases around the world. The technology that was allegedly developed at Montauk has had 40 years to evolve and improve. The next generation of consciousness manipulation experiments might be taking place right now, in laboratories buried beneath the desert, under the ocean, or even in orbit. The creators of Stranger Things may have thought they were making science fiction. But they might have been creating a documentary about the past, or a preview of the future. Because if the Montauk Project was real, then the age of psychic warfare has already begun. And the children who will fight the next generation of wars might not be carrying guns or flying planes. They might be sitting in chairs, their minds amplified by technology beyond our comprehension, reaching across space and time to reshape reality itself. The question isn't whether this is possible. The question is whether it's already happening. How many Montauk boys are still out there? How many psychic soldiers are being trained in facilities we've never heard of? And what happens when they're finally ready to reveal themselves to the world? The truth about the Montauk Project may never be fully known. But the technology it allegedly pioneered is becoming more real every day. The next time you see a news story about breakthrough research in consciousness manipulation, brain-computer interfaces, or quantum physics, remember Camp Hero. Remember the children who allegedly sacrificed their sanity and their lives to push the boundaries of human potential. And remember that the most dangerous secrets are often hidden in plain sight, disguised as fiction, waiting for the right moment to emerge from the shadows and change everything we thought we knew about reality itself. Maybe the Montauk Project was nothing more than a fringe conspiracy fueled by recovered memories and Cold War paranoia. Or maybe it was one of the most advanced, and terrifying, experiments ever conducted on American soil. And if that's true, then the real question isn't what happened at Camp Hero in the 1980s. The real question is what's happening right now, in facilities just like it, with technology we can barely imagine and children whose abilities we're only beginning to understand. The age of psychic warfare may not be coming. It may already be here. Things. What if I told you Stranger Things wasn't fiction? That buried beneath a decaying military base in Montauk, New York, lies the true story of psychic kids, mind control experiments, and time travel portals, conducted by the US government. This is not a creepypasta. This is the Montauk Project. And it might be the most disturbing government conspiracy you've never heard of. At the far edge of Long Island sits Camp Hero, a Cold War-era Air Force station closed in the 1980s. On the surface, it looks abandoned, graffiti-stained walls, rusting fences, and a massive radar tower that still looms like a forgotten sentinel. But locals have long whispered about what happened beneath it. Some say it was just a radar base. Others say something else was happening. Something far darker. Because in the late 1970s and early 80s, men started coming forward claiming that Camp Hero was the epicenter of a secret program, the Montauk Project. The first was Preston Nichols. He was an electrical engineer who claimed to have recovered repressed memories of working on the project. According to Nichols, Montauk was conducting experiments in psychological warfare, funded by leftover black-budget money from Project MK-Ultra. Nichols said he helped build something called the Montauk Chair, a device that could amplify psychic abilities. He claimed that certain children, usually boys aged 10 to 13, were brought in and trained to use their minds to project images, manipulate objects, even open portals to other dimensions. One child, according to Nichols, was different. Stronger. More dangerous. They called him the Montauk Boy. Another man named Al Bielik came forward with similar claims. He said the Montauk Project was connected to something even older, the infamous Philadelphia experiment of 1943, where the US allegedly tried to make a Navy ship invisible, and accidentally bent spacetime. Bialik said he was part of both experiments, and that he'd traveled through time. He and Nichols both described a program called Project Indigo, focused on developing psychic spies. Children with extreme extrasensory abilities were allegedly kidnapped or bred for these tasks. Some of them didn't survive. Others disappeared completely. And one became the direct inspiration for 11 from Stranger Things. The creators of Stranger Things originally pitched the show as Montauk. That was the working title, and the setting was even based in Long Island before being changed to Indiana. They were directly inspired by the Montauk Project legends, the psychic girl trained by the government, the opening of interdimensional gates, the experiments hidden behind barbed wire. But was it just fiction? Or was it a soft disclosure? Skeptics argue there's no proof the Montauk Project ever happened. No formal documents. No official admission. Just the word of 2 men and a handful of others with allegedly recovered memories. But then there's Camp Hero itself. Why did the base have underground tunnel systems if it was just a radar station? Why were locals reporting strange power surges, animal disappearances, and bizarre noises in the middle of the night? And why were there sightings of children wandering the woods near the base, only to vanish before authorities arrived? In the early 2000s, investigators tried to access the underground facilities at Camp Hero. The entrances had all been sealed with concrete. The government claimed it was to protect the public from radiation exposure. But the official radiation reports showed no threat. So what were they hiding? Preston Nichols said the strongest psychic child, the Montauk boy, could not be controlled. He became too powerful. His thoughts created physical objects. At one point, Nichols claims, he conjured a creature so terrifying that it destroyed lab equipment and forced the project to shut down. He said they called it the Montauk Monster. Coincidentally, or not, a bizarre creature washed ashore near Montauk in 2008. Mangled, unrecognizable, and quickly removed by unknown authorities. Nichols claimed the Montauk Project was officially shut down in August 1983 after that incident. But other whistleblowers have said the research just moved deeper underground, or to other locations. Some believe the experiments continue to this day, refined and digitized under new names. DARPA's Neural Interface Research. The CIA's Stargate program. Elon Musk's Neuralink. New labels. Same goals. Maybe the Montauk Project was nothing more than a fringe conspiracy fueled by recovered memories and Cold War paranoia. Or maybe it was one of the most advanced, and terrifying, experiments ever conducted on American soil. And if that's true, how many Montauk boys are still out there? Follow for more unsettling history.